Alright. Well, we're starting with a big one, and by big, I don't necessarily mean like it's gonna do very well. Box office wise, I have no idea if it will or not.
Yeah.
But, because it was my second most anticipated movie of the entire year, and it's highly anticipated by a lot of people, I think.
Definitely.
Obviously we're talking about American Hustle, which is David O. Russell's immediate follow-up to Silver Linings Playbook. Like, people actually weren't sure if it was getting released this year, and they just made it really fucking fast and got it out.
They had to rush to get it released while he was still on fresh in everybody's minds.
Yeah. And obviously Silver Linings Playbook was the follow-up to The Fighter.
Yes.
Which was a huge success. As was Silver Linings Playbook. Both critically pretty well box office, just considering the kind of movies they were.
Yeah, a decent box office for what they were.
And obviously awards-wise.
Most definitely.
So basically what he did was he took the entire cast of The Fighter and the entire cast of Silver Linings Playbook and put them into one movie.
Yeah.
Minus a few people and maybe, or maybe not, a surprise cameo from one of the other movies. I don't know if I should say who that is or not. I think most people, I think it was pretty, like, I think it made news when he was cast, so it's really no surprise to people when he actually shows up. I didn't know until the early reviews came out that he was going uncredited. I thought he was.
He's uncredited?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
He's gonna have a major part. It's already out there. Fuck it. It's De Niro. He has a big 5-minute scene where he's basically playing an older version of his character from Goodfellas. And speaking of Goodfellas, let's go ahead and start.
All right.
Well, the really fun thing about watching this movie's production unravel in, like, various news sources was seeing what everybody looked like. Because
Really?
this was it was obviously, it's the 70s.
Yes.
Yes.
It's the late 70s.
And there was they weren't stills, they weren't official stills, they were set pictures. Like the actors coming out of their trailers and people caught pictures of them. We saw Jennifer Lawrence with the big blonde hair, we saw Bradley Cooper with the perm, and we saw Bale with the massive comb over and his extra 40 pounds of weight. And everybody thought, holy crap, this movie looks like a blast.
Yes, most definitely.
Well, and then the first trailer came out, and people thought, oh, it kind of looks like Scorsese and Boogie Nights. Like if Scorsese did Boogie Nights, is what people said.
That's one of the first things I said. It looked a lot like Boogie Nights.
Well, the thing is that's kind of redundant, because Paul Thomas Anderson has said many times that he was doing Scorsese when he made Boogie Nights.
That's great.
So it's kind of, you could say Scorsese and get your point across. There's just right there is where some problems lie, right away. As much as I like this movie, there are some things I want to point out that were okay. First off, I don't know, it's never really been said by Russell himself that I've heard if he was intentionally doing Scorsese or not. There's been some people that say they don't see the Goodfellas comparisons. However,
Nero's flashback is a good one too.
Well, here's the thing. The whole introduction with Bale's character Irving, when he talks about being the kid and when he like breaks the glass and stuff.
Yeah.
I literally expect that narration to begin with, all my life I always wanted to be a gangster. Because it's exactly like Ray Liotta's narration and his rise to the way what he became. It is like the exact Goodfellas opening. And kind of so much so that I won't say Russell was ripping off Scorsese, but American Hustle's style is so reminiscent of Goodfellas that sometimes it's distracting.
Okay.
Especially the opening. Like, that whole first 20 minutes is so Scorsese, it's insane. Yeah, you can throw Casino in there, too.
Yeah, I can see that.
there's also, I can't really say much about that, but I'll say the ending kind of reminded me of Casino. Not only it's arrests instead of assassinations.
Yes.
But, you know, and then another problem is, it was basically, okay, this movie started as a script from a few years ago called American Bullshit.
Yes.
Which obviously is not a title they can use.
And that word's pretty much thrown around the entire movie.
And it was by the other guy that gets a screenplay credit. And then basically Russell took this script and almost completely changed it. And then basically ended up having everybody do improv. And there was actually, I think it's actually in IMDb's trivia, there was a moment where Bale went up to Russell and he said, you do realize that we're going so far off the script, we're practically changing the entire movie. And Russell basically told Bale to his face, I don't really give a shit about the story. This movie's basically just going to be what it is. We're just going to go by that's basically what Russell does. He goes by characters and basically makes them the meat of everything and not necessarily the plot itself. So then we got what we got. And the problem with that is, I mean, it could really, really work and really, really help. And it's always great when you see something like... You see something that seems like it's just really, really good writing, and then you learn later it was just really, really awesome improv.
Definitely.
And there are those moments in this where I can't tell the difference. But sometimes you can really tell when they're just winging it, and it kind of there's kind of a sloppiness to it. Like, there's a few too many scenes where there's just long pauses, like it's Russell waiting for the actors to do something, just to see what happens.
Yeah.
Which is a good method of doing things as a director. I'm just saying, there were a couple of moments there where you could actually feel Russell waiting for something to happen.
Yeah, I can see that.
And then there's these, I don't know what this was. There is a scene, and I didn't know what was going on. I don't know if this was Russell waiting for something to happen and this is what happened, or if he directed it to be this way, because, you know, he has he has a thing for quirkiness. See the entirety of I Heart Huckabees and his first movie, Specking the Monkey, which is about... I'm not even going to tell you, just research it. I don't want to say it. It's the scene involving Bradley Cooper and Amy Adams. And it goes on for what feels like forever. I don't know if it just feels like it's going on forever because of how awkward it is, or what, but he's basically teasing her, like, as a revenge act for the way she always teases him. So he's got a hold of her, and he's, like, breathing really, really heavily. And then he pulls away from her, and he grabs her leg, and just stands there and, like, breathes really heavily at her, and then drops her leg and walks away. I don't know what the fuck that was.
I don't know. That's bizarre.
Alright, but apart from those awkward things and the, cause I say I worried for a while there because it was so reminiscent of Scorsese, and particularly Goodfellas, it got a little distracting.
Mm-hmm.
As the movie progresses, it does start to turn more into its own thing. So, like I said, the kind of somewhat Casino ending.
Yeah.
And there were a couple of Tarantino touches as well. I noticed. I don't know if those were intentional or not, but I know Russell is a Tarantino fan because he was the one that told Tarantino to not retire at the last round table.
Oh yeah.
So I commend Russell for that. But there's one thing. Number one, this movie starts with the classic Columbia logo.
Yes.
Which is exactly what Django did a year ago.
Yep.
And secondly, there is the De Niro scene. I don't know if you noticed this or not. The setup of this, I don't think I'm saying too much here, probably not. There's so many twists and turns in this movie. If you feel like one thing's a spoiler, there's plenty of other things that will surprise you. They have Michael Pena, who is a fake sheik. He's actually Paco Hernandez is his name.
Yeah.
Because they went with the most Mexican name they could find. And he's posing as this sheik, and they're trying to do this deal with De Niro. And of course, they say, he speaks Arabic, and, we'll translate to him. And of course, it's Bradley Cooper just whispering shit into his ear.
Yeah.
Pretending to translate. And it turns out that De Niro can speak Arabic.
Yep.
And Pena basically there's that tense moment where they have to wait. And then, finally Pena manages to dig themselves out of that hole. That's a scene right out of Inglourious Bastards.
The drunk guy coming in is probably the reason why.
Like Wilhelm.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
It's a mixture of the scene in the pub and the scene at the premiere when Londa can speak Italian.
Yes. Very true. I totally see this.
But, that's okay. Before we go into the performances, I'd like to point out that there's something in the... This is just a little thing, but it's something that really bothered me, because it's something that I really, really had in my mind. Inglourious Bastards did this too. How weird.
Yeah.
There is one shot that lasts for like half a second that's in the trailer. And I was really intrigued by what the fuck was happening. And that shot's not in the movie, so I have no idea what it was.
There's a couple of things in the trailer that are not in the movie.
The one shot that merely had me saying, what's going on there, I really want to know, is, and it's not in the movie and it's never explained, there's this shot in the trailer of Bradley Cooper coming out of an office, it looks like, and he's walking down a hallway. And he's got like his arms in front of him like this, and he looks like he's like hulking up. That never happened. So. Jeremy
Renner's speech is different in the movie than it is in the trailer too.
I hadn't noticed that. But that's with all the heavy improv, they probably had multiple takes of every scene. So they could probably just, like we were talking about with Anchorman, where they have so many scenes to work with, they can throw, some scenes in the trailer and then their counterparts basically in the actual movie to kind of shake things up. So we'll talk about Bale. Bale is, I think, apparently this is a controversial opinion. I wasn't aware until the internet yelled at me yesterday, but I think Bale's the best of the cast.
Uh-huh.
And I'll tell you in a second what really pissed the internet off that I said, but I'll get to that in a second. There's something that I didn't really notice that a lot of people, everybody's talking about it, and everybody, like, even before the movie came out, people were talking about it, but it never registered with me except one scene.
Okay.
And I never really thought about it. Like, we just saw it again today for the second time, 2 days in a row, and it still never registered with me except the one scene. Apparently the whole movie, Bale was doing De Niro.
I can somewhat see it with some of his delivery.
The very without saying anything, the scene with the big reveal is the one time my mind even went there, where I was like, wow, he's like really doing De Niro right there.
He talks about being from the Bronx and everything. You can tell by his delivery that he's trying to be De Niro.
And he's always got his head sideways.
Yes, indeed.
So, but for some reason, that just never registered in my head watching him. It's worth noting that this opening scene is probably one of the best opening scenes of the year.
Yes.
It's basically a 3-minute... The very first scene of the entire movie is a 3-minute scene of Bale putting his hair together in front of the mirror.
It's quite awesome.
When you heard in the trailer, and she says that again in the movie, when Amy Adams calls his comb-over elaborate, this is what she means. It takes him a good 3 minutes, and that's chopped up. God knows how long this actually took him, of just putting his hair together.
It's kind of, if you want to talk about P.T. Anderson and Boogie Nights and the comparisons there, you can say this is his Dirk Diggler speech, without any dialogue whatsoever.
And without unzipping his
pants. Without showing the full money, so...
Bale's got a lot of good... I also commend Bradley Cooper for this. Bale and Bradley Cooper have a lot of really big speeches.
They have good chemistry, too.
And it requires... Once again, I can't tell what's improv and what's scripted, but... Yeah. This dialogue requires them to not only say the big paragraphs, but say them really quickly.
Yeah.
And like I said, I don't know how many... I mean, you can... When you're just watching a movie and not behind the scenes stuff, you can only commend an actor so much because you don't know... For all we know, maybe Bradley Cooper took about 50 takes, but... Bradley Cooper, like, is... You know, he's from the actor studio, so
yeah.
I'm sure... And, of course, you know, Bale's been doing this his whole life, so... I would say... You could commend them without having to question... You know, how long it took them to accomplish this. Especially, you know, with how fast this movie was made.
Yeah, definitely.
You almost expect it to be... Some people did complain, which this is what I was talking about with the improv. There are scenes that made people feel like it was thrown together really fast. Mm-hmm. But I probably would, if I didn't know, I probably would not have guessed that this movie was made as fast as it was. So, we also... I guess I'll go into Cooper now, but that's basically my criticism of Bale. Not criticism, but the...
Commentary on him?
Whatever it is. Bale's the best of the cast.
Yes.
Bottom line.
Period.
That's what I have to say about Bale.
And in a year that's not so packed, I could see him easily getting in. But I don't think it'll happen this year.
If he gets BAFTA on his side, he's you know, and he's British, so...
Yeah.
Technically, he's already got BAFTA on his side. Because you know how, you know, they can be.
If that happens, then he could easily get a slot in Best Actor race, and it'd be very deserved.
Okay, so next we'll talk about Amy Adams. Of the main five, I would put her at the bottom.
I knew you were going to say that.
But that really only says how good the Ellers are.
Yeah.
Because she is really good. Particularly in the scenes with the... well, first of all, I thought it was funny that nobody really knew her plot point. Yeah. That she's an American posing as a British woman. But what was funny was when the trailers were out, people assumed that she was playing a British character, and they're like, her accent's all over the place. That explains that.
Completely.
I can't tell you how good her accent was because I'm not good at that kind of thing. And even if I was, my comment would probably be, well, it's hard to tell if it's Amy Adams not doing a very good one or if it's Sydney not doing a very good one. Yeah. She always has that to fall back on.
That's true.
If she didn't do it right.
My character didn't do it right. It wasn't me. Well, you're your own character. No, it's not the same thing.
But the scenes with Bale, yes. When she, like, particularly the scene where she's, like, you know, talking about fleeing. I didn't throw plot at them. Maybe I should really quickly.
You might want to.
Long story short, because this
is all over the place.
The build-up to the plot itself is like the first half hour of the movie.
Yeah.
Long story short, Bale and Adams are lovers, and they're also con artists, and they are caught by Bradley Cooper, who's an FBI agent, and Adams gets arrested because she
got caught, basically.
Really, really long story short.
Yes.
And so, to keep her and Bale from going to prison, Bradley Cooper insists that they entrap various political figures. Well, they don't want to do political figures, but Cooper is, like, obsessed with fame and notice, so he wants to go as big as possible, because he's greedy.
It's like Rick Santoro and Snake Eyes.
So, and that's, yeah.
In a nutshell, that's the best way to describe it.
And I will also say that
get ready for the backlash.
Let's just say, I don't know how to word this.
Go ahead.
The interesting thing about Amy Adams in this movie is the whole movie, from beginning to end, she might as well not even be wearing clothes.
No, she's very scantily clad during the entire movie, but it's classy.
And that's not a criticism because she's Amy Adams.
Exactly.
I just thought I'd say it.
American cleavage, that this movie could have been called as well.
Yes, this whole part of her is on display the entire movie.
Yeah.
There's never a scene that doesn't have her cleavage in it.
It's very true.
Not a complaint.
Not a complaint whatsoever. No.
I just thought while we were on the subject of her, I thought I'd say, oh, by the way, that's a little hard to not notice.
Very true.
I should have said difficult. On to Lawrence.
Yes.
I understand. First off, Lawrence is doing really well awards-wise. She's gotten quite a few critics awards now. But I understand a major criticism she's been getting. But it's not... Lawrence's greatness in this movie is on and off. It's mostly on, but there are times... Well, here's the problem. The problem with this, though, is... obviously, the main complaint is obvious. Sometimes her age is apparent.
Yeah.
When I say that, I mean, she's playing Christian Bale's wife.
Yes.
And she's my age. And she's this... But that's the problem I'm talking about, though. It's never established how old her character is.
That's true.
So we have no idea if she's playing a character that's actually her age, or if she's playing a character that's supposed to be a lot older than her.
Bale's her sugar daddy.
Which is where because she has the kid that's not his.
Exactly.
If she's supposed to be playing a character that's older than her, then there's a criticism there, but we don't know, so I don't know what to say about that. Because for the most part, she doesn't play it like a 23-year-old.
No.
So it's hard to tell how old the character is supposed to be. Yeah, for the most part, she's great. So, but there were a couple of times where I don't really know exactly what it was, but something just seemed like I don't know. I guess there were a couple of scenes where the character didn't seem all there, like the way she is in most of the scenes. I'm sure most people, a particularly memorable scene where she sings "Live and Let Die" will probably be a talked about scene.
Yeah, I like that scene actually.
So that leaves Renner. This is what the internet got really mad at me for.
Yeah.
Remember how I said Bale was the best of the cast? And you know how Bradley Cooper, Amy Adams, and Jennifer Lawrence are all getting a lot of award buzz. They all got in at the Globes. Jennifer Lawrence got in at SAG.
Most likely, most of them will get in the Oscar race.
I thought Renner was the second best of the cast after Bale.
He's really good.
I thought Renner was better than the three of them. But that's not. Well, here's the big thing. Something Renner really has on his side is he didn't have the height that the other three do.
That's true.
So they're more susceptible to being, oh, that's it. And Renner's more susceptible to being, whoa, I wasn't expecting how great he would be.
Exactly.
So it's really hard to tell if, I'll get that sorted out later. That's another thing I really want to bring up. I'll finish with Renner and then I'll go into that. What Renner does really well is the improv and the genuineness. Like, there were scenes where I felt like Renner was improving, but they never, stood at... it was never, oh, Renner's obviously improving. It was, wow, Renner, if that's improv, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Particularly the scene where, after he leaves the hotel and Bale runs outside after him and they have that little conversation, about the clams, and that seemed improv. And the fact that that's actually another good thing, is if he can, if that was scripted, then Renner read those lines to where they sounded like really great improv. So that alone, this is a win-win situation for Renner, how he did here.
Too bad that he's not going to get the critical acclaim he deserves.
He was runner-up at one of the Critics' Awards, actually. He was runner-up to Jared Leto, I think. Whether it was scripted or whether it was improv, pretty much every delivery Jeremy Renner has in this movie is gold. This is the scene with the microwave.
Science of it.
They christened the science of.
I love that so much.
Don't put metal in it. Yeah, we'll get back. That's another great scene I love with Lawrence. Was don't put metal in the science of.
She's caused many fires, we'll just put it this way.
Yeah, because the one fire extinguisher's empty, she has to tell the kid to get the other one from the last fire.
The big nice burn mark on the wall.
On her face in the first scene, too.
Yeah.
And then there's this big supporting cast with Louis C.K. and Jack Houston and Shea Whigham, who was the brother in Silver Linings Playbook, and he and Jack Houston are on Boardwalk Empire.
I thought he looked familiar.
Jack Houston's not now. Yeah. Hope you guys have caught up on Boardwalk Empire. He's part of the Houston family too.
Okay.
The John and Angelica and Danny and all of them. I'm pretty sure he's related to them. Yeah, he is. There's so many people in this who all know this thing.
I got the name.
Alessandro Nivola, who was, everybody just knows him as Castor Troy, even though you can't even recognize him anymore if you only know him from Face Off. He was Bradley Cooper's Louis C.K. is Bradley Cooper's boss, and he is Louis C.K.'s boss. Louis C.K. has this great running joke involving an ice fishing story. It's Paul Herman from Silver Linings Playbook. He was the guy that kept betting with De Niro.
Yeah.
He is he plays a major part, I won't say. But yeah, overall, I really like the movie. This is what I was going to mention when I was still on Renner. The thing about... I was really glad I got to see this again before actually reviewing it, but Russell's movies always take me, a few times at least. The fight... After I first saw The Fighter, I was like, alright, that's good, but,
You weren't on the bandwagon like everyone else seemed to be.
I saw The Fighter a few more times, and now I love it.
Yes.
As you saw, I even said it's better than Rocky.
Yeah.
Silver Linings Playbook last year, we saw it in Columbus, and I was like, so. Then I saw it a couple more times, and I was like, I guess. And then I saw it a couple more times. My first clue should have been, why am I watching this so many times?
Exactly.
There's obviously something I like about it. But yeah, now I think Silver Linings Playbook is great. And there's a lot of... the way Russell's movies work is, they're not surface movies at all.
No.
They are the movies you have to watch over and over and over again because of to just get that appreciation.
You pick up different things every single view as well.
But unfortunately, as of now, I have to say that it, whenever you're watching a movie that you think is great, there is that moment in the movie where you basically sit back in your chair and say, wow, this is great. I never got it.
Oh.
Unfortunately, but I do like the movie from beginning to end. It's almost 2.5 hours, but it's got a really good pace. Some people say the pace is off.
It flows really well.
I think it's fine, yeah. I mean, there are moments, like when we get into the Jack Houston stuff towards the end, where it starts to get... You start to feel the length a little bit, but it's getting close to the end there, so it's alright. I gotta throw one more criticism at Russell before we go on. This isn't really criticism, I'm just wondering what it means.
Alright.
Most of these director techniques, it's pretty easy to, understand what the director wants you to get out of it. Some people call his direction gimmicky. I can kind of see that.
Okay.
Because, number one, the Scorsese thing was really apparent. And secondly, there's the scene, it only happens twice. It happens once with Bale and it happens once with De Niro. There'll be this moment where they're talking, and they're talking with their hands. And while they're talking with their hands, the camera will pan down and just look at their hands for a second and then pan back up. I don't really know what that was. I'm just throwing that out there. I don't know what that technique was saying exactly. But yeah, the point being, the people who criticize Russell for the way he made this movie, I can understand. But I think as the movie goes on, he shies away from Scorsese and gets to be his own thing. So, when you watch The Fighter and Silver Linings Playbook, those are really an original style, the way those movies are. True. But there's always this, I don't know why it always gets me, but there's this really great shot in Silver Linings Playbook where we haven't met his brother yet. And there's pictures of Pat and his brother on the wall. Yeah. And we hear his brother talk. And to establish who is talking, instead of cutting right to his brother, they cut to the picture on the wall and then over to him. So, basically what I'm saying is I love Russell.
Me too.
maybe it was just how fast this movie was made.
Didn't live up to the expectation you had for it.
Yeah, but to give the movie a lot of credit, it probably would have taken a lot to live up to my expectation of it. God help the Wolf of Wall Street.
Oh God, yeah, it's not much longer. Only 4 more days and you get to finally take that on. So
I mean, that's the thing though. Russell was like, very Scorsese in this movie. Wolf of Wall Street is Scorsese.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think we'll be okay.
I think we'll be fine.
There were a couple people. There's this. Let me mention this. I was going to mention it in the Wolf review, but I'll get into it now. I hope. I wanted to be done as fast as possible. We've already been on American Hustle for half an hour.
I'm not surprised.
There was this battle going on with critics.
Okay.
You'd think critics would be too old for this, but apparently not.
No.
We're all children at heart when we love a movie.
Indeed.
There's this battle going on where if you love American Hustle, you hate The Wolf of Wall Street. If you love A Wolf of Wall Street, you hate American Hustle.
What?
And I don't know. I posted about it. They were talking about it on a message board, and I posted it's a little hippie symbol where he's got the glasses and the peace sign behind him, and he has, the 2 fingers, and I just said, can't we just love them both? Come on. But apparently that's like a raging battle between critics, and there's people who love to start American Hustle reviews by saying, Russell out Scorsese himself.
Oh, man.
I don't think that's going to happen.
After 2 views, you're still not completely sold. So, I mean, maybe after a couple more
but
views,
it's a Russell movie, so I need a couple more.
We'll have time, don't worry.
I do like the movie better now than I did yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
So
really?
We're on the right track.
You seemed like you were into it yesterday, but I couldn't really tell your opinion, because obviously we kind of save it for the video, so I never know your opinion going in.
Alright. Our next one... I don't know how to do this review because I don't have a lot to say.
I do.
And it's not necessarily a problem that the movie lays on me that I have a problem coming up with things to say. It's just... the movie just kind of is what it is, and I don't really know what to say. Something hilarious happened, though. I will say... It's Saving Mr. Banks, by the way.
I can finally put that in the video now.
You gotta want to know that.
In the description bar.
The problem is, I know you want to gush as much as you can.
But I'm going to, don't worry.
But it is almost 10 o'clock, so I'd like to get out of here as fast as possible if you want to try to condense what you're going to say in your head while I do this.
I got this, don't worry.
I was... I had no idea, I promise. I had no idea at all. The movie started, and for the first 10 minutes, are so British.
I can see that.
We're talking about tea, and we got the guy who I'm really surprised. I'm going to bring up Stephen Fry again. And
you mean Darmid?
I'm really surprised that wasn't Stephen Fry.
It could have been easily.
And of course you got Emma Thompson, who's as British as, the British it. By the way, as far as my bashing the BAFTAs a little bit ago, and what I'm saying right now, I have no problem with the British. I'm just pointing out that they're very, very British.
Yes, even Ashley would agree with this statement.
So, while watching the first 10 minutes of this movie, I said, good God, I feel like I'm watching BBC. Turns out, the end credits come up. I had no idea whatsoever the BBC Films was involved in this. But good God, they made it obvious.
Yeah.
I actually expected to see the little logo in the bottom right of the theater screen.
It wasn't there.
Regardless, apparently a lot of people don't know what this movie is.
Yeah.
I had to explain it today to somebody. Tom Hanks is Walt Disney. That's what the whole movie was for the longest time. It's that movie where Tom Hanks plays Walt Disney.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, actually, he's not even the main character.
No,
some people called him
not.
an extended cameo. That's pushing it. He is a big part.
I tried to tell you that he's not a cameo like people were
The
saying.
main character is Emma Thompson, who is P.L. Travers, who was the author of Mary Poppins.
Correct.
And she didn't want Mary Poppins to be made into a movie.
Correct.
So Disney spent 20 years trying to convince her to.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, he got her to come to Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm.
And hijinks ensued.
That's an interesting way to put it.
Until the thing got made.
Yes.
Well, let's start off immediately, because the movie does. There's something really weird going on here. Now, I understand, okay. This is a problem, but I don't know how I would fix it. So I don't really know how to criticize it.
That's interesting.
Well, okay, the opening shot is this little girl, shock surprise, it's her, sitting in this field, and then we see her in this very obvious transition.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, but it's true. It was very obvious, almost Amelia-esque.
I won't go that far.
And so she does the things, and then she's like, oh, I don't want to do that. Oh, I guess I'll do that because I'm broke. She gets on the plane, and then she has these flashbacks. And these happen throughout the movie.
Correct.
Now, this isn't really giving anything away because it's pretty obvious. Obviously, these flashbacks prove to be her inspiration for writing Mary Poppins.
That is correct.
The problem, and basically they're made to coincide with her memories. With what the things that whatever they're doing, whatever they're working with, like, whether it's, working on a song or looking at storyboards or whatever, these are things that trigger the pairs.
Yeah, exactly.
These are things that trigger her memories.
True.
Well, these flashbacks felt really weird. And really weirdly placed. Because not all of them lined up with a memory. Some of them were just there. And some of them last for like 5 minutes and are their whole big thing. Some of them are there for like 20 seconds.
Yeah.
And that just seemed... And they're so completely different. It was like... You ever watch 2 movies you've already seen that are on at the same time, so you just flip back and forth?
Yeah.
That's kind of what it was like. Because you have for this particular case, we'll call them the present day scenes, even though they're in the 60s.
Yeah.
The present day scenes, which are this happy-go-lucky movie about the... I'm sorry, I just thought of something totally off topic that's making me laugh, but it has nothing to do with this, so I'm going to try to block it out.
Okay.
That was weird.
So you'll tell me off camera.
Okay.
Really? Tell the viewers now. You have to.
No, it has nothing to do with anything.
Oh, I know that, but still.
Don't get me too off track. This old... Okay, so you have the 2 parallel stories going that are totally different.
Mm-hmm.
God damn it. There's one about this bitter woman that, is that whole cliche where you have the bitter woman that is no fun whatsoever, and by the end of the movie, you've made her fun.
Yeah.
They actually kind of combat that, but we'll get to that later. Because she never fully transitions into happy-go-lucky, so...
No.
We have that.
Just has little spurts of it here and there.
And of course, you have to read up on... Obviously, the movie ends before you can get to this point, but obviously, if you know real life, you know that even though it seems like P.L. Travers kind of does lighten up to the whole thing, she still hated the movie.
Yep, completely.
And it's, it's where you really feel like you're in the Disney territory.
Mm.
Because you are. Because you're in Disneyland with Walt Disney.
Which was an awesome scene.
And these flashbacks are really heavy shit.
Yeah, it's the reason it's PG-13, too.
Yeah. You've got Colin Farrell with God knows what. He's coughing up blood, he's drunk, he's emotionally abusive at times. Mm-hmm. Like, he's the reason she has an imagination.
Yes.
But as things progressed for him in a bad way, he became not so great. But there's a whole speech that Hanks gives about that towards the end, but that's, to be seen. But these flashbacks are just really weird within the confines of the movie. Like, just tone-wise, it's just weird.
It takes you out of the family-friendly nature of the rest of the movie.
Yeah, like I said, I know they're there because because everything comes to a point.
Yes.
And it's this big emotional payoff. It really is so. But it's just a weird way to get there. A thought I had during the movie, I don't know for sure, because it wouldn't have had the emotional payoff.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, it depends on how you did it. The only solution I could come up with, which I'm iffy on myself, would have been if literally you did it in 2 parts. You had one entire first half that was the Colin Farrell stuff, and then it went into the Emma Thompson stuff.
Interesting.
Like I said, obviously we'll never know with seeing it pieced that way, so I have no idea if that would work or not, but I think it would have been less...
Jumbled?
It wouldn't have seemed as uneven, I guess, tonally. But there are some... but the thing is, though, is despite being weird pieces put together, they have their great moments individually. Like, Colin Farrell got a lot of acclaim. Like, especially, like, in the early reviews, everybody was saying, like, you have, Emma Thompson, who's definitely going to get nominated for an Oscar. You have Tom Hanks, who's gotten... I don't think he's going to get nominated now, but he got a lot of acclaim, and everybody was talking about him getting double nominated. I was the only person that said that would never happen, and it looks like I'm right again.
I hope you're wrong.
But when you saw the early reviews, like when it was very first screen, the only person people talked about was Colin Farrell. I was like, what is he... Like, I had no idea what he did for the longest time in the movie. Actually, his role was mysterious to me until about a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
Every single person that is in this movie has been on the talk show circuit. So, all the way down to Bradley Whitford and Jason Schwartzman. They were both on Kimmel promoting it. You have obviously, the story, it still has its dramatic moments because she has her dramatic moments because she's having these flashbacks.
Yes.
But, obviously, the present day story is much happier.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, you have the, I can see why it's being, not many people were sure where to put it genre-wise. I can see now why it's considered a drama.
Mm-hmm.
But, you have, like, she's obviously, for a large portion of the movie, Pale Travers is a comedic role.
Yeah.
Like, with just the way she reacts to everything. This is a very, I'll interrupt this right now to say this. I'll elaborate on this, but I'll say the sentence first. The movie's definitely a crowd pleaser.
For sure.
Now, the reason I hesitate to say that is because there is lately you know how everybody wants to be the dark is better, fuck happiness people?
Yeah.
There is kind of a negative connotation now when you just say crowd pleaser.
Mm.
Like, it's just one of those, it was made to be for the masses, that horrible, terrible word, the masses. But, I mean that in the literal sense of exactly what the words say. It pleases crowds.
It really does. I can 100% vouch for this.
Yeah, there was a lot of people in there today, too.
Yeah, it was nice.
And there's this... I guess I have no idea how to review this movie, because there's really not much to say.
I got some things to say, don't worry.
But she's mostly a comedic character, like with the... we don't realize the heaviness of the scene, but it's funny at the time when she just takes... She has this... Disney has filled her room with shit, with stuffed animals and fruit baskets and all that, and she grabs one of the fruit baskets and says, "Oh, pears," and just throws them into the pool over the balcony. After a while, she just starts to fuck with them as far as creative control, saying that she doesn't want red in the movie at all, because I'm feeling anti-red at the moment. And there's that great shot of Schwartzman looking down to just red vest as she says that.
That was great.
But then there's the happy moments where they finally get her to lighten up and she sings, Let's Go Fly a Kite.
Yes, that seems awesome.
And there's this really great character. This character should have his own movie. Because
I know where you're going with this.
Because he's in it for like 15 minutes, but his performance and the way he's written is so layered. You could make an entire movie out of this supporting character.
Agreed.
I'm talking about Ralph.
Ralph was just created for the movie.
Ralph is
Paul Giamatti.
Travers is limo driver, played by
Yes.
Paul Giamatti. And he's this extremely, extremely happy person.
Yes.
All the time. Who, of course, and he doesn't necessarily have a dark side, but he has a legitimate reason to not be happy, which is why he's so happy.
Correct.
That in itself makes this really complex character.
And you don't know enough about him, too, but you find out just enough to make him entertaining.
And he's given even more depth because he's basically her only friend in the outside of London. Or ever.
The only American she's ever liked.
Yeah. So we can talk about Hanks for a second.
Yes.
Hanks has a lot of, Hanks is definitely that... He's definitely that supporting role.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you think of big supporting roles that have a huge impact on the movie, that's what I think of. And he's got the two, like for a while he's just kind of there, and like I never really saw much footage of the actual Disney, so I don't know if it's...
He's really good.
I feel like I've seen that footage of the bell
You
somewhere. But he has two particular scenes that really stand out. There's the one where they're walking through the park, and then that scene that everybody talks about. St. Mr. Banks and Captain Phillips get the exact same review. Hanks' last scene, amazing. It's not Hanks' last scene in Mr. Banks, but it's one of the last.
It's the go home for the end of the movie.
And of course, Hanks is like, one of the best actors ever.
Yes.
So, he has these moments where he wasn't, like, a big question when this movie was being made was, it's a movie, this is the first movie ever with Walt Disney as an actual character.
Correct.
And it's made by Disney. So they were saying, oh, something tells me they're going to really water down Disney and not show his dark side or anything.
No.
Apparently he does have kind of a dark side that the movie didn't show, but Hanks was still intent on showing certain things. Like like when they're walking through the park, and his thing was basically, so he didn't have to, he basically didn't want to sign autographs, so he had pre-autographed little pictures that he just handed out to people.
Yeah.
Even Travers called him out on that. And it was I actually read, the movie did not at all whatsoever want to show Disney smoking.
That's correct.
And it was Hanks that basically fought for it. And they basically settled on him putting a cigarette out as she walked in, and coughing. So,
that was a Walt thing that most people didn't realize he did.
Yeah, because it was, I don't know if it was his family or the studio or who it was, but Hanks had to fight to at least get the stamped out cigarette in there.
If I had to guess, it's probably the family.
Because, that was like a big secret or something.
Yes, correct.
So yeah, I don't think it's a great movie, but I think it's good, and I think there's the emotional payoff probably looked better on paper than the way they pulled it off, but nevertheless, when that payoff hits, it's kind of, and it is nice that they really stay true to the character, or the person, because there is this, Emma Thompson gets her big Oscar scene at the premiere, and they give her a comedic line that's more in tune with her character, that makes that a great scene, that punctuates it, basically. The line about cartoons.
Cartoons, yeah.
So, yeah. So, yeah. I think it's really good, but, I'm not, like, in love with it or anything. So, do you have your condensed thoughts?
Yeah, I do. Okay, first off, number one, I'll cheat and say I saw this movie on December 4th. This movie at the Downtown Disney AMC cinemas, and I haven't heard an ovation for a movie in a long time. It's been a while. I mean, I remember hearing it in Fahrenheit 9/11. I remember hearing an ovation after the movie was over. And every single time that movie ended, I always would hear a nice little ovation.
Singing in the Rain.
Yeah, exactly. Singing in the Rain was a really good one. That was a newer one too. Every time I watch Saving Mr. Banks, and I watched it 3 times when I was home this year. Obviously, I watched it at Hollywood Studios on the other 2 occasions, and every single time I got great audience reaction. And this is a movie you need to watch with a crowd if you're able to. If you're able to see this with a theater full of people,
if you're saying it this weekend, you probably are.
I recommend it 100%. I am the one have been helming the Hanks for supporting actor train, and it doesn't look very promising, but there's still ways he could slide in, even though it's not very likely. But I still like to see it happen, because his performance is spectacular, even down to the Smoke Tree Ranch tie tack he wears, which was Walt without any question. And I love the movie. I love the music. I mean, I've never really been a big Mary Poppins fan. I remember watching it once when I was a kid, and that was probably it. But ever since watching Banks the first time, I've been singing Let's Go Fly Kite, like, constantly in my head. And sometimes out loud if people were around me. But the thing is, it's a really whimsical story that can get very dark in places. It's family friendly to a point. But it was one of those things, like, if you read the parent's guide of a movie, like, you need to talk to your children about alcoholism and about attempted suicide.
No kids left scared. So
no, exactly. There were some tense scenes. There could have been if you're really young. But, I mean, the cast is spectacular. I love...
Yeah, there's a... Let's just say there's a scene where a particular bit of bad news is broken to a child by her seeing a bloody sheet.
Yeah. and watching her mom walking into the water to drown herself. It's really, but that's the reason it's PG-13. It's PG-13 for a little bit of really, like, minor language that you'll hear on cable television, even on network television nowadays.
I didn't even hear any that registered in my head anyway.
Damn in hell.
Ooh.
That, like I said, regular television, you hear that nowadays. It's in the...
Yeah, it's the same... John Lee Hancock, he directed this, he's best known for doing The Blind Side.
Yes.
He also did The Rookie with Dennis Quaid. He also did that album with Bill Thornton, but my point with The Rookie is, what's really great is, this is just a memory that occurred to me. We're talking about this.
Okay.
The Rookie was rated G. Usually G means there's nothing at all.
No.
And I remember when The Rookie came out and I saw it in the theater, he was talking about how there was absolutely no way the gun could have been right about how fast he was throwing.
Yeah.
And then his wife tries to convince him it was right, and then he says something like, I'm telling you, the damn gun was broken. And I heard a kid gasp in horror.
Nice.
That movie is 11 years old, I think, and that memory is still... That kid's gasp of horror at damn will forever be... That's the one I always associate with when they say how bad is the language.
That's hilarious. No, furthermore, just to sum it all up, I love this movie. Will it be high on my top 10 for the year? Guaranteed. Top 5 for sure, but I don't know exactly where to put things at this point. I still have to see Wolf of Wall Street. I still want to see Nebraska. I'd like to see Inside Llewyn Davis before I make my top 10 for the year, because those are 3 things I'm really anticipating. But the cast is phenomenal, and everybody is on point with their role. I mean, I love Jason Schwartzman and BJ Novak as the Sherman brothers. I think they're great in it. Novak gets a really funny scene in the middle of the movie.
You need to Google how he got shot.
Yeah. We should probably do that for review here.
Alright.
But yeah, it's an awesome movie. I really enjoyed it completely, and I'm not just being a Disney apologist or a Disney fanatic. I'm basically saying it's a great movie for everyone. And if you have any reservations about watching it, the reason it's PG-13, a little mild language, and some tense scenes involving alcoholism and attempted suicide. Other than that, if you can get past that... And
whatever it was he had.
Yeah, we don't know what he had exactly.
There's a lot of blood coughing.
Yeah, totally.
Mind you, it's not like projectile, but it's like the
Satine.
old... It's like the old cough, oh, my handkerchief's bloody.
Satine and Moulin Rouge. That's what comes to mind immediately when I think about coughing in a handkerchief full of blood. But yeah, excellent movie, and check it out. going to do some really good things this award season. I just don't know exactly what yet.
Yeah, Best Actress nomination, the end.
Best Actress win.
That's all it did at the Globes, so...
I was gone with the Globes was on, so I didn't have any way to, like,
win.
Cheer for it. You're the one that told me that she was battling Blanchett for the win right now.
Yeah, but Blanchett's not losing.
We'll see.
I would kind of like it if she did, because I think there's a lot of performances better than hers.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's going to kill me all over again. Okay.
Let's talk about some fun stuff now.
Our next movie is Walking With Dinosaurs. What the fuck?
First off, I felt like I was sitting in a museum watching people, like, try to educate me on dinosaurs.
Well, listen to this. First off, it just so happens the very first logo we see is BBC Earth. I was thrilled to see that logo. So, apparently this is like some spin-off of some show.
Walking With Dinosaurs is the only thing I know is that Aziz Ansari bit.
Okay, well here's
okay.
Okay. Let's just talk about this.
Okay.
I'm just gonna start at the beginning.
Go ahead.
So the movie opens, okay, and we see these landscapes, and I'm thinking, wow, this animation's really good.
Yep.
We go further into the landscapes, like onto a road. I'm like, holy shit, this animation's really good. And then we get to this truck. And it's driving down the road. And I'm like, holy fucking shit, that looks so real.
This is going to be amazing animation. It's not animated, folks.
This movie's bookended by live action for some reason.
Yeah.
Carl Urban, to be specific.
Trying to be Sam Neill from Jurassic Park.
Okay, so... the movie starts with Carl Urban, and he's like the cool uncle. Or the not-so-cool uncle, depending on your position. You're either... There's a little girl that's excited, and there's emo, wearing my hood, on my phone kid. You know that kid. You know exactly... You know millions of people like that.
I wait on them daily.
And he's there, and he's all, this is dumb. I bet I'm going to be wowed later, much to my surprise, but I'm bored right now. So... That
pretty much just sums it up right there.
So... What happens, the reason for this is they're out doing whatever the fuck, and they discover these dinosaur bones, and they're like, oh, these are awesome, I wonder how this happened. Fast forward a billion-ass years ago.
Yes.
And now we're doing the dinosaurs, and I was like, oh, I get it. This is a story devoted to those two dinosaurs in the Tree of Life. That's exactly what this is. It has to be, given these weird-ass cuts from present day to then. That was my only thought. We get to see why the dinosaur stomped on that other dinosaur's head, because that seemed really rude of him. Sorry to say I still don't know why that dinosaur stepped on that other dinosaur's head in the Tree of Life, but regardless, that was not the most disturbing thing. No, the thing... I thought I was losing my mind. I thought this movie was a bad dream. Because the entire first 5 minutes, just weird, bad shit kept happening. Do you want to know what the next thing that happened was? The dinosaurs come out, and then we see a bird that's John Leguizamo. He's basically everybody's the fucking narrator. It's like a American Hustle, I guess. Everybody narrated that movie. And then they're narrating, and then the bird comes down, and he and the dinosaur appear to be narrating. But they're not. They're talking to each other now. Do you know why I was confused? Because their mouths don't move.
No, they don't. They occasionally growl, though.
They narrate. Okay.
That's it.
Listen. The bird narrates.
Correct.
Justin Long is the little runt dinosaur, by the way. He's got a hole in his head. Fuck it. And they both narrate. Okay, so you're just hearing their voice. And then they start to talk to each other, okay? And their mouths don't move.
Mm-hmm. They're dialoguing to each other's minds.
That's what I was like, can they only understand each other? Because here's the thing. When they talk... Okay. This is the part I don't get. Maybe animals speak other animal languages. Like, say a dog barks at another dog and the dog understands it, or a cat meows at another cat and the cat knows what it's talking about.
Okay.
The dinosaur and the bird are making their own noises while they're making the noise, and the voiceover is over that. It's like the voice actors were playing the dubbing game from Whose Line Is It Anyway?
Oh wow. Yeah, I can see that.
Or if it was just like when you do that at like home, like as a party game, like just to fuck around. I used to do that with Spider-Man all the time.
Like
don't
to hear
don't
this.
ask.
I will after we get off camera.
When the bird talks, you clearly hear it squawk. Its mouth is moving and it's squawking. It's not doing a talking thing. It is just doing the squawking thing.
Yeah.
And even when its mouth, it'll do one squawk and then its mouth will close and not move. And through the squawk and the non-moving mouth, like was almost voices going over it.
Yeah.
And then the same thing for Justin Long and that dinosaur. You'll hear like a little like come out of him, and Justin Long will do this whole dialogue. And then
It's like a bad kung fu movie dub.
Yeah, and Justin Long's voice is still going, and the dinosaur's just sitting there, which made this amazing. It is so I don't know what kind of twist of fate happened to make this amazing turn of events happen. The stars aligned here. I've never seen this happen before. You've never seen this happen before, and you work there.
Yeah.
It just so happens in the movie with the really, really bad voiceover. Halfway through the movie, I shit you not, I'm being serious. This was not part of it either. This was a technical difficulty.
We need to fix this. That's what I'm going to say about that.
What happened was, the movie's digital, obviously.
Yeah.
It's a digital projector.
We're all digital now.
Which usually means nothing can go wrong.
Unless it's Hugo in New York.
Yeah. I thought I was just really tired.
No.
But you confirmed it, and then I saw it with my own eyes, and then somebody got up and left, and then it got fixed. But there was this moment in the middle of the movie where it stopped for just a second. And then it kept going. And the sync was off. For like 5 straight minutes, the sync was off.
It was like watching a Water for Elephants online again.
And unless the most amazing thing that this just happened to be that movie that this happened to is that if it wasn't for the sound effects, like one of them running into a tree or one of them like slipping on ice, because of the way the voiceover was, I never would have known. I swear to God, I wouldn't have. Because that's how bad it was. Because I seriously think somebody just animated this document, like, this is a documentary. This is what a documentary of dinosaurs would look like.
Yes.
We were able to shoot documentaries when dinosaurs were around. And this company, Reliance, I think they were called? Yeah. It looked like the Annapurna logo for a second. I was like, did Annapurna go into animation already? But it's like they took this makeshift dinosaur documentary and they're like, you know what? Let's put celebrity voices over it and make it, put a little story with it. You know, like what kids do when they watch animal documentaries, basically. You know, we can't all have the great Tim Allen doing Chimpanzee.
Yes.
Just so you know, I'm not joking. Tim Allen's narration for Chimpanzee was really good.
I totally agree.
But what happened here? Okay, now hold on, let me just... And by the way, I know they were talking to each other. I know they could hear each other, because Leguizamo's first line is, what, you never heard a bird talk before? I've never seen a bird talk either, because you're fucking squawking with John Leguizamo's voice playing over you in post. Okay, but that's not the weird part.
Nope, it's not.
Let me continue. I think I moved it a little bit.
Probably.
Okay, I'm going to assume this show I've barely heard of, that this is apparently a spinoff of, is an educational show. Because...
Correct.
Every 5 minutes or so, every time a new character is introduced, the movie stops and it pauses on this dinosaur, and the name of it comes up and what it does, and this child's voice comes on and says the name of the dinosaur and what it does. It's basically reading the text for you. Kind of like...
It's PBS.
It's those shows you watch in fucking school.
Yeah.
The little videos that the teachers have from PBS that the kids sleep through.
Yes, indeed.
That's what this movie was.
Yeah.
They just said, hey, Justin Long, hey, Leguizamo, hey, whoever the girl was. Does that anybody we know?
Taya Sircar.
Who's that?
She was in The Internship. The really cute girl in The Internship that I marked out for. Remember her?
Anyway, and it's just... And they do this okay, here's the thing. They do this, I do this with locations in movies.
Mm-hmm.
Like, say we see a location in a movie at the start of one, and then the location comes up, and it gives like the day it is and the time that it is. I was like, really? Like, as soon as that text goes away, I'm not going to remember that.
Nope.
And I don't think it's going to be important either.
Probably not.
If you introduce a dinosaur and what kind it is and what its name is every 5 minutes, do you think kids are going to remember that?
No, and they're long names. Dinosaurs have long names as well.
I couldn't either. Yeah, it doesn't help when you give the dinosaurs their own names, like Patchy and Scowler, which is too close to Skylar, who's voicing him.
Skylar Stone, yeah.
Like, I'm pretty sure Justin Long said Skylar a few times.
Yeah, I think he did once, actually.
It's like when, in Osmosis Jones, when, Brandy Norwood was the voice of Leah.
Mm-hmm.
And for some reason they kept it in the movie, but there's actually audio in the movie of Chris Rock saying, "Hey Brandy, I mean Leah."
That's awesome. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Believable, but still.
So anyway, the plot, by the way, is... Well, the plot they threw on this little animated dinosaur movie with no dialogue. It was kind of like... It basically could have been like Spirit. Like, you remember when that animated movie with the horse came out?
Yeah.
And it said Spirius Dinosaur on it, and it was the picture of the horse, and it said Matt Damon at the top. And everybody assumed
Matt Damon was the horse.
The movie had no dialogue. Matt Damon was a narrator. I thought that was a really interesting approach by that movie.
Yeah?
Nope. This is not that movie.
No, and it's not Lay Before Time either.
Yeah, that wasn't, like, I was like, oh, is that what it is?
That would have been awesome, but no.
I'm not going to say it. Oh my god, I don't know why I want to say it. That makes me a bad person for just wanting to say it. I'm not going to say it.
What?
If you know the history of The Land Before Time, you probably know in the direction I'm going, but I won't say the whole thought because it's evil. The plot, basically, is you have Justin Long's dinosaur and you have Skeller. And they're brothers.
Mm-hmm. Of course, because they have to be.
They look like two totally different species. But
completely.
They're brothers, apparently. And they're with their parents. And then, I can't believe this isn't Disney with this plot. There's a fire and the parents die. That's so Disney of them. You know, very Lion King.
Old school Disney, yeah.
Lion King, wasn't there a fire around the time Bambi's Mom got shot too?
Yes.
There's a fire on Bambi somewhere.
Oh, yes.
So it's just them, and then you have this girl. And it's really disturbing because Patchy sees this girl from a distance and he spots her, and it's, a love at first sight thing. I have trouble buying the love at first sight thing when they play 70s porn music when he says
what was going... There were so many weird, shout-outs to adults in this movie. We'll talk about that, I think, in a minute.
Yeah, let me throw one out there right now. This one's towards the end. I don't think any of the... I think maybe we're overthinking it.
Maybe... I know where you're going too. Maybe it's possible,
but the way it's delivered, I don't think so, because it's said by itself like there's supposed to be a punchline. Okay, let me tell you the kind of jokes this PG-rated movie about friendly dinosaurs makes. It's all cute because he's got a hole in his head that whistles when wind blows through it. He's the little runt. This is just nice family-friendly entertainment. Well, towards the end, they're all running away, and they ask. I can't even remember what they asked him now. I don't remember what the build-up was. They asked Patchy, how he's running so fast. Or, how he's, something. Long story short, his response is, I just ate a bush. I know we could be overthinking, but there was a pause there.
Yeah.
As if people were supposed to catch on to a punchline.
And no one did. If there was one, no one caught on it.
I don't know. Maybe it's us.
Many references about his whole...
I still had Amy Adams on the brain, maybe.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it also really helps the whole, okay. Remember how I said their mouths don't move?
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of scenes that have a shitload of dinosaurs in one space that are kind of all talking to each other.
Nothing.
You know what? I wasn't even gonna try to decipher who was who.
Nope.
Because you have two dinosaurs, like you had Leguizamo here and you have two dinosaurs here, and I couldn't tell if Leguizamo was talking and then one would talk back to him and then the other would talk, or if one was just talking to him, or if they were all talking at the same time. It was all so confusing. However, there is one moment that I like. I quickly skimmed through one paragraph review of this movie that somebody wrote on IMDb, and they said the same thing. There is one redeemable scene from this movie. Of course, it's Leguizamo.
Yeah.
He's probably ad-libbing too.
Most likely.
We're talking about we pause for education again, and it's the dinosaur. Meet the Robinsons already covered this, but this movie, goes into that. The thing about the dinosaurs that are huge in every aspect except their arms. This time, for the sake of comedy, it's not a, well, here's what happened. What happens with the child's voice from, like, a leftover child from Gullah Gullah Island or something.
Wow.
Is the dinosaur comes up and then this voice says the name and what it does, and yeah, I expect to hear the kids from Blue's Clues cheering or something.
Believable.
Well, for this particular dinosaur, Leguizamo is telling us everything. Like he said, we get introduced to it, and then Leguizamo comes in and says, "But let me tell you more about it." We get diagrams about it. At first, I was pissed, but I think it's all set up for this punchline.
Yes. He's
telling us every single detail about this dinosaur and how big it is and how great it is. And then we get to its arms, and he starts to laugh at it, and he starts to make fun of it. And then he goes to another one of the body parts, and then the camera pans back over to the arms, and he starts laughing again. He literally can't get through the rest of telling us about this dinosaur because he can't stop laughing at the arms.
There's the thing about to have the animal that doesn't have any natural predator, and all of a sudden he gets swatted out of the air and eaten.
Oh, I think I jinxed that guy.
Yeah, that was funny.
Yeah. Okay.
Two redeeming qualities about the movie.
Lastly,
voice cast isn't terrible, even though they're...
Lastly, this movie quotes Batman Forever.
Yeah, it does.
You remember that scene at the end of Batman Forever where Chris O'Donnell's beating the shit out of Tommy Lee Jones, and he says, "This is for my father. This is for my brother." And then he gives him one more big one and says, "This is for me." That is quoted verbatim.
Yep. Yeah, it is.
Chris O'Donnell also said mother, but for some reason his dad was the only one he was avenging. I don't know. Fuck it. So, that, in a nutshell, is Walking with Dinosaurs. That's really what you're doing through the whole movie. When it's not freaking you the fuck out, you're just walking with them. They're just walking and you're just along for the ride.
You're basically following John Leguizamo, following the dinosaurs walking.
Okay, so Flying with Dinosaurs. Flying with Alex, looking at dinosaurs. That's the full title.
I want that on the road sign now. Flying with Alex, looking at dinosaurs.
So, let's have a total change of pace.
I wanted you to do this for some reason.
Okay. Our last movie.
Kitties, you can run away now.
Our last movie, is interesting. It's got a lot of, attention.
Yeah.
Our last movie is Blue is the Warmest Color, which you might notice that 3-hour French lesbian movie with the ass eating on screen. It's NC-17. Did I mention that already?
No.
Okay. It is the 3-hour French NC-17 lesbian ass eating movie. Okay. With that actress that everybody's falling in love with now, Adele. You know what? Normally, when I have to do this, I look up on YouTube the person saying their own name. And Adele was actually at one of the actors' roundtables. And I heard her say her own name.
Okay.
But I couldn't keep up with her. So I still don't know how to say it, even after having heard her say it. Adele is this actress who is just barely 18, I think. And she looks like, don't blow up at me, because we're not talking about acting, we're talking about appearance. She looks like a more attractive Kristen Stewart is what she reminded me of.
I can see that.
Okay. And she and Leo, I'm not sure how to say her name either.
Hers is easier to say do.
Is that how you actually say it?
Yeah.
That's what it looks like, but I was just making sure. They are the two lovers in this movie, and they are, I'm not saying this, I'm saying it in general. They are apparently so good that for like the first time, I don't know if it's the first time in history, it's just the first time in a really long ass time. This movie won the Palm at Cannes, which is given to the director, I believe. I'm not positive on that. Regardless, the Palm is the most prestigious award at Cannes. You probably see it in all kinds of artsy trailers.
Yes.
Not only was it given to the director, it was given to them as well. It was I think that's like never happened. That's what I was reading. So that's, the plot is very, for being 3 hours long, the plot's very basic. Adele is 18 and she's still in high school, and she's, trying to get all sexual because it's a French movie. Yeah. No, because she's a teenager, of course. And so she gets this boyfriend, and it's like, they bang. Yes, they're all the lesbian, all the parts everywhere. Ladies, yes, there is a dick in this movie. So Adele has this boyfriend, but she's clearly not really that into. But she thinks maybe she's just not into him. But of course, she's walking down the street one day, and this girl with blue hair walks by. And that's when she starts to maybe realize maybe it's not that she's not into this guy, it's that she's not straight. So, she basically tracks this girl down. Let's be honest, Adele's kind of a stalker. And she meets, her name is Emma. And they go into this gay bar. Well, no, she starts off in a guy's gay bar, then she ends up in a lesbian. I was about to say a girl's gay bar. A lesbian gay bar. A lesbian bar. Lesbian gay is kind of redundant, I guess.
It's late, folks.
Yeah, PC went out the window long ago. PC went out the window when you asked me to do this review.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, and then they eventually get into this. Okay, let me just mention this. When we go to this bar, Emma has a girlfriend.
Okay.
And then her and Adele hit it off. And then obviously as time progresses, Adele and Emma become a couple. Mm-hmm. And then the movie becomes their relationship and the ups and downs and all that. Discovery, all that shit. Okay. This movie is 3 hours long. It's got a shitload of padding in it.
Yeah, how does it work with 3 hours?
There is a lot of long shots and long scenes of pretty not important stuff. There is a lot of scenes of Adele talking to her school friends. That doesn't really have anything to do with anything. There are a lot of scenes of Adele dancing. A lot of them. And they're very long. However, even though we have time for this and spaghetti, they call it something else, but it's spaghetti. There is about a half hour of this movie probably adds up to people shoving spaghetti into their mouths. Everybody's just eating spaghetti constantly.
Interesting. This movie should be called Sex and Spaghetti.
And it's spaghetti is the warmest pasta.
Nice.
However, Adele and Emma get together, and this girl that Emma was with is never to be seen again.
Of course.
We spend minutes after minutes of watching spaghetti get eaten. We spend minutes after minutes of watching Adele dance. We spend minutes and minutes of watching her talk to her friends. Not one single second is devoted to what happened to this girl.
She disappeared.
Maybe because we're watching Adele's journey.
That's probably it.
If we had been following Emma's journey, then we'd see why they broke up. But it's not important because this is Adele's journey. The translation of the movie's French title is The Life of Adele.
Okay, that says it right there.
So, still, I found it just a little weird. All this time devoted to this, and not 1 second. Not even for... Emma could have at least said, we broke up.
Nope.
There's not even acknowledged. It's just 1 minute Emma's with this girl and Adele's single, and the next minute it's Adele and Emma. In the very next scene. I think we're supposed to assume time has passed. But no, you want to spend all your time showing us the stuff we don't need, and you don't even want to acknowledge when actual time passes.
Wow.
The French are weird, man.
Indeed.
So, I want to talk about some things. I want to actually talk a lot about realism. There are a lot of things. Okay. This movie is obviously beloved. People are fucking obsessed with this movie.
Yeah.
People are like batshit insane in love with this movie. And the biggest, absolute, most positive thing everybody loves to bring up about this movie, why it's so incredible, is the realism. Well, I turned it to Jack for a second.
You did.
Well, it's 70s Jack. Here's the problem. You're probably... I'm gonna get some people on my bad side here. Probably. But I really think this needs to be said. Okay, there was a time where realism was something that you didn't see very often, so people went insane for it. Like, when something felt, like, when somebody did some kind of nuance or something that said, it almost feels like we're eavesdropping, it doesn't feel like somebody acting. The problem is, especially with indie movies kill realism. The problem with realism now is it's so done to death that when I see realism, it screams acting to me.
Wow.
It has the opposite. It's been done so much, it literally has the opposite effect of what it started it. Because don't you, maybe this is just me, maybe this is just my bitterness towards all the fucking indie movies I've seen, but when you see somebody do, it's considered a nuance. But to be honest, in these realism, like these movies, there's a lot of movies that are totally fictional and totally have a fictional style to them. They just feel like a regular movie, and they'll have these hints of realism that kind of are like, whoa, that was awesome. But these movies that are literally intentionally devoted to realism screams, we're doing this on purpose, and it completely kills the authenticity of it, completely defeating the whole purpose.
That's like the based on a true story genre. I'm sick of that too.
Yeah, American also did a nice spin on that. Some of this actually happened.
Yeah.
I should have mentioned that in the actual review, but and this is the thing that bothered me. It was one person actually. It's just something one nobody said that just really sunk into my skull and started to irritate me.
Okay.
There was this person online, not a critic, just a dude online, and he was in love with this movie, clearly. I think he would make love to this movie if it was a person. he was talking about Adele. And he was talking about the nuances that Adele did. And he was, just raving and raving and raving about her. It's almost like, I'm almost positive he was serious. But you would think he was doing a parody of people that love her performance. This guy wrote paragraphs in all capital letters about how much he loved the nuance of Adele sleeping with her mouth open. That one thing, he had paragraphs to write about.
Oh, wow.
Well, I hate to really rain on that guy's parade. If you read into it, and Adele has actually said this, a lot of the time they were filming, Adele didn't know she was on camera. He was filming her, just being her. So really all that realism is just Adele being Adele and not even realizing she was on camera. So, to the point, it's funny that there's a character with blue hair in this movie, because guess what? Adele's character's name was actually Clementine. However, he filmed her so much without her realizing it that she kept getting called Adele on camera.
Yeah, of course.
So they just cut out all the scenes where she's called Clementine, and they made Adele's character named Adele. Because that much. However, there are scenes where Adele does have to act, and she does live up to her hype. She's very, very good. Some of the hype is a little ridiculous, but that's just the way people are. They see a 3-hour French movie, and they think they are the god of cinema, and they know all.
Yeah.
Those people will tell you that Adele gives... There are people saying Adele gives one of the greatest performances they've ever seen in their life. Let's be honest. A lot of their big scenes are basically soap opera melodrama. The big breakup and the screaming and the crying and the throwing. I shit you not. There's actually... This movie that everybody's in love with actually has a scene where there is a big breakup that involves one of the girls taking a suitcase out of the closet and throwing the other girl's clothes in it and kicking her out.
What?
I'm pretty sure I saw that on one of my mom's soap operas last week. I could be wrong, I don't know. But yeah, Adele mainly said it was when she was eating and sleeping. Which is creepy, by the way, when the camera was on her and she didn't know it. And then there's this... I hate to call the French out so much. By the way, yeah, I know they really want to bring out the... They really want to talk about the realism. I will commend Adele, I guess, for commitment. I mean, she really has no choice but to be committed. This is like her first movie. I would expect anybody to be committed. So I wouldn't necessarily, say, oh my god, you were committed. However, Adele is this... She's out of this world good looking. And she really does devote to these crying scenes. I don't really know how else to put it, so I'm just going to be straight with you. A lot of Adele's crying scenes literally end with her covered in her own snot.
Oh.
Now, I know there is a sense of devotion.
Indeed.
But, even the snot at some point made me kind of say, well... it does make you... I just really cannot buy this realism thing anymore. There's some movies that can make it really genuine, but for most it just has the total opposite effect now. And this is one of those movies that depends solely on it. Another problem I have... I'll blame him because he's French. This movie, despite the fact that everybody's all over its dick, which is really funny because there's barely any dick in it, it's all the other. I don't know if I'll talk about the sex scene or not. I think it's pretty much got its own reputation already.
It really does.
This movie is filled to the brim with amateur hour artsy shots that you would expect. The sun through the trees, that is like the go-to artsy shot for everybody. There's probably 3 of those here. You got the long takes. I can't fucking stand this shit. you've got the really long takes where the character literally does. I know you're supposed to do like nuances and you're supposed to see changes in them.
Yeah.
So the camera will literally just linger on the character doing absolutely nothing for like 5 minutes. And it's supposed to be like, there's probably a nuance in there somewhere that you have to really, really look for. Kind of like the shot that Paul Thomas Anderson had to really, really fight for in Boogie Nights. That's Jesse's girl playing, and the camera lingers on Wahlberg for 50 seconds. But here, it's mostly, there's a lot of them too. That's probably where a lot of the runtime comes from. Or just these shots of just lingering on Adele doing nothing, where she's, nuancing it up. And there's this, I don't know what this was, but it was, there's this shot for no reason. Like, she's only, I suppose it's to show, like, hey, I'm directing, just so you know. I'm not just being lazy and filming her when she doesn't know. So there's the scenes where she's stuffing spaghetti into her mouth again, which apparently he did without her knowing. And then to end the scene, though, there's this, she just stretches. This is our transition out of the scene for some reason. She leans back and stretches in her chair, and we get, like, this upward shot of her. Whereas as if he was saying, in case people want to criticize me for just, filming shit that's really not important, I'm going to show you that I'm directing now.
Oh, wow.
And, yeah, I'd also just like to say, as far as people talking about, people love to call out over-the-top acting now. Like, pretty much any actor that goes all out for a role is criticized for being over-the-top now. I'm going to be honest with you. It's such an issue for me now. People try so hard for it now. Realism is actually more distracting to me now than over-the-top acting is.
Wow.
So, let me shock you by saying that I like this movie.
I'm not completely surprised.
I have all these... Oh yeah, she's been acting for a while now. This is like her first big role, though. I said earlier I thought it was her first one. Yeah, she's been acting since 2007, but I think this is her first, like, big part. Maybe not, I don't know. But I do, there's moments that, like, there are moments where it doesn't always feel its length. It does. But there are those moments where it's like a really long scene will go by, but it has such a nice flow to it that it's fine. The acting is amazing from both of them. They're pretty much the only ones that have to act. And Adele's boyfriend. There's like this whole segment where he's actually like a really nice guy and he's like good to her, but she has to break up with him because she doesn't swing that way. And he has this big emotional breakdown. And there is chemistry there. But it's just, if the movie would have worked at 2 hours, and probably would have been, if this movie had been 2 hours, I maybe possibly could see it the way most people do. But the 3 hour thing was too much. I know you kind of want to feel that it takes place over the span of like years. Like there's like Adele's aspiring to be a teacher, and then by the time the movie ends, she's like a seasoned teacher. And she's not, and she ages well through the movie. Like you wouldn't expect the girl at the end of the movie is still an 18-year-old actress. It's just, this movie needed a lot of cutting. I guess I'll talk about the sex scene for a second. I will say, I'll just make this easy and I'll quote another review. The people that love the realism don't like the sex scene. Because they basically say that the sex scene was more or less a lot more lesbian couples have actually commented and said that the sex scene in Blue is Warmest Color is way too porn-like.
This isn't 9 songs.
Yeah, and people like to mention the scissoring. Apparently, there have been many lesbian couples come out saying they have never scissored and they've never heard of anyone scissoring in real life. So, apparently that was an issue with the community.
Mm-hmm.
But, that scene is what it is, and there's a few of them. So, that's pretty much this. It does make you wonder if clearly the movie probably would not have the reputation it does without those scenes. I was more or less, I know as a straight guy, I'm being like totally sacrilegious here.
Mm-hmm.
Through this whole 7-minute long graphic sex scene of literally women's faces right into the...
Yes.
The only thing that was on my mind was why it was necessary. I know I should just, enjoy watching lesbians like everybody else.
Yes.
But I literally just could not get it out of my head that I was like, okay, maybe if you want to throw that in, like maybe to show like, okay, maybe if like there's like 3 different sex scenes, I guess, for 3 different things. Like, you could say the first one is, like, all passion and all pent-up stuff. Mm. And then the second one is, more... Once you're further into a relationship sex, and then there's we're getting a little more distant sex. But, I mean, a 7-minute uncut scene is... Even as a straight guy, you don't think that's pushing it a little bit?
Yeah.
Especially when it's being called out on not even being realistic. Maybe that's just me. This review got really weird. So that's all I have to say. This movie is good, but it's not what people are making it by any means. And it needs to be at least an hour shorter. It could be an hour 45.
Wow.
The 3 hours is not necessary at all.
Your padding is basically the reason why it's the way it is.
Yes, so much goddamn padding. There's probably more padding than there is a movie.
It's going to be hard to watch.
So, that's that pretty much.
Alright, we've got a lot still to come in the week. We're going to be watching Dallas Buyers Club in Philomena on Monday night. And Wednesday, finally get to watch The Wolf of Wall Street and Grudge Match. Which, of course, seems to be the afterthought for that day, obviously.
It's the John Bernthal double feature.
Yes, and 47 Ronin and Secret Life of Walter Mitty is going to be the day after, so... We have Inside Llewyn Davis. We know we're getting it. We just don't know exactly when yet. We know we are getting it. It's a guarantee. We just don't know when. Her, Nebraska, August, they're all things that just we'll get when we get at this point, so... Mandela's online now. Who knows? Whatever. Diana maybe some point. So these are some things that we may end up reviewing. We don't know for sure yet. So got a really good Versus coming out later today, which I'm looking forward to. It's been one I've been wanting to do for a long time. So I don't have a cryptic comment for it. So AJ, do you have one by any chance? I thought Irony, but
Intersect.
Intersect? That's a good one. I like that, actually.
Literally off the top of my head.
That works perfectly. Intersect works really well for a cryptic comment. So, so basically, in essence, American Hustle was a movie that you were really anticipating, you liked, but you didn't love as much as you thought you would. At least on 2 views.
Yeah, there's still time.
Saving Mr. Banks is something that you didn't absolutely love, but you didn't hate. You liked it, just the same. And Walking With Dinosaurs, would you recommend it to anyone?
No.
Completely no. Stay away from it. And Blue is the Warmest Color. If you're able to watch it, then do so. And I will hopefully be watching it soon. Just kind of depends. I want to watch it. Just it's kind of a situation, obviously. So yeah, think about it. So in the meantime, AJ, any parting words for this review?